Okay, starting.
Welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio, where truth equals reality, and truth is often stranger than fiction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man. And joining me today is Jason Miller. And he's recently got a new book out titled Financial Sorcery. And he was just telling me he had 2 other books out, which I'm going to let him tell you about these other books in a minute when he gets on here so he can kind of describe them better than I can. But this is kind of a new topic for me. I mean, we've had psychics on before, and we've had, Wiccan guests on before. But I don't remember, unless one got past me, having one that dealt with magic and its relation to money. So I hope to learn a little something here tonight. So, Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on my show. And, I think you did some good people to deal with in Warwick and New Page Books. A lot of people that come on my show, people that do well in the industry or, as far as books go through them. So hopefully that'll be a good service for you.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's working out pretty well.
Oh, you want to kind of tell everybody that's listening what got you interested in, sorcery and its application to money?
Well, I've been interested in magic and the occult my whole life, ever since I was a kid. And I just never let go of that. But like a lot of people who are interested in either witchcraft or magic and things like that, or for that matter, even more purely spiritual pursuits. I'm also a Buddhist, but people that pursue Buddhism or religious studies and things like that, you find yourself pursuing your passion throughout your teens and your 20s. But it's one that doesn't have a lot of financial rewards. In fact, a lot of people look at the financial side of their lives as being unspiritual, unmagical. So this is where you sort of have the stereotype of the poor pagan, the people that show up at the Wiccan circle who don't have 2 pennies to rub together and are generally not an affluent group. There are, of course, exceptions to this. There are some, very affluent pagans. I don't mean to, paint it as a rule, but, there is sort of this stereotype of the poor magician and the poor pagan and so on. And I certainly was one of those. I viewed money as being unspiritual or distraction from the path, but I never viewed it that much enough to go ahead and actually do the non-materialist trip for real, like becoming a monk or a nun or a wandering yogi or something like that. So, I did like every other 20-something in the 90s did. We called us slackers back then. Just sort of worked, temp jobs and low-level corporate jobs and tech jobs that, weren't high level. And didn't really think too much about money, and just put all of my time into spiritual things. But it was actually during a trip to Nepal that I started to look at my life and look at the lives of people around me and say, well, non-materialism is great, but if you're going to do it, then you got to really do it and become that monk or nun or yogi. Said otherwise, as you get older, money's going to kick your butt.
Yeah, it did mine.
And, and that's the reality. I started to look around, and the people that I had looked up to when I was growing up were now getting older and getting into retirement age and finding out, hey, I spent, my life promoting the craft, or I spent my life as a pagan elder and writing books, and I have nothing financially to show for it. And I need help. And so, you get these requests from financial help from people, and you hear stories of people, dying in poverty or near poverty level. And I just kind of thought, well, money is too powerful to leave alone. It's almost like a demon that gets summoned, or a spirit like a poltergeist that's too powerful. If you leave it alone, it's gonna master you. It's either gonna drive you into poverty or dominate you in other ways and make you obsessed with it. As we can look around and see it. Some of the people around causing the financial mess are obsessed with money in that way. But we can take control and either renounce it or master it. And I say, well, since I'm not going to become a monk or a nun anytime soon, I had better set out to master it. And since my main skill set is magical in nature, I had better apply that to it. And so that's what I started to do. I started to examine the relationship between money and magic. And I spent quite a few years talking to people and gathering stories and investigating the history of magic and money and so on, and came up with a program that I think is something unlike anything else that's out there.
So you're actually using the formula that you put down in your book for your own purposes.
Oh yes, and quite successfully, and people that I've given early copies of the book to, or have been at my financial sorcery classes that I was giving before I even wrote the book, have reported similar gains. That the magic works. It's just people have been using it for the wrong things.
Well, is this really, really magic? Like, and I'm not trying to be funny on you, but just for descriptive purposes, like, abracadabra, or is this more like applied knowledge that would end up being like magic, in other words?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. First of all, my strategic sorcery approach to magic is one that always is insistent upon not divorcing magical actions from mundane actions. So in other words, in my chapter on finding a job, I give lots of spells and rituals to help you find a job, but I'd say 60% of the chapter is about the process of the stages of how to look for a job in today's economy, how to put the word out and exploit things that people would find in a finance or job hunting book that had nothing to do with magic. And I piggyback the magic onto that. So there is that sort of application of knowledge, some people call life hacking nowadays, But there is that level of summoning spirits, talking to saints, lighting candles, saying mantras, using specialized seals like the lightning glyphs that I give in the book. And this has a long history, not just in magic and the occult, but of course it has a history in all religions. One of the things that I point out is that is not really a big difference between, say, a pagan opening up a spell book and finding a pagan god like Jupiter who, can help out with some money problems, versus a Catholic getting a copy of favorite novenas for all occasions, which I'm looking at on my shelf right now, opening it up to the table of contents, saying, okay, well, I need to find a job. Let's see, who's good for that? Oh, Our Lady of Miraculous Metal, or Saint Homobonus, or these people. And, so then you flip over to the page and you have a prayer to say for 9 days and a candle to light. And, when you divorce yourself from it, it all just kind of boils down to the same sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, I think just about almost everything does. But what I'm getting here, though, is that your goal was to have a blend between, say, spirit and matter, to where they work together in harmony.
It has to be. It has to be, because the magic works. The spells work. But as I talked to people, I found that people were using the magic, money magic I mean, for two things. And they were two things that were counterproductive towards building a really good financial life. And the first thing that they were using their magic for is they were avoiding the magic until things were about to hit the fan. So in other words, they're at their job and they don't think about using magic to get ahead, and they don't think about using magic to help get promoted. They're at their job, they do their thing, and then they hear about layoffs. And they hear that they're, one of the people considered for layoff. Well, now let's get the candles out. Let's open up the spell book. Let's summon a spirit or say 10,000 mantras or something like that. And that's okay. Everybody runs into emergencies. But if that's the only time that you're doing magic, then it's already maybe too late. It might, or even worse, it keeps you trapped in a crappy job that you would have done better had fallen out from under you, so that something else better could come along. So this sort of reliance on emergency magic, people were doing it only when disaster would hit. I had friends who have businesses, and they'd call me to help boost their business, but only when the landlord has got an eviction notice against them, and the tax man is breathing down their neck for a year and a half of unpaid taxes. Like, well, what do you want me to do now? I mean, magic will help alter your probabilities, but it's not going to just rewrite reality.
Right. I hear what you're saying, because complacency does not get surplus.
Exactly. Exactly. Good saying. And then the other side of that is that people would do the lottery wish. They'd put. I run a year-long course called the Strategic Sorcery course, and the first homework assignment is to come up with a goal for yourself that you can work towards strategically. And 2 out of the first 10 people to turn in homework, the first time I gave it, had said, I want to win millions and millions of dollars in the lottery so I never have to think about money again. And I said, you joined a strategic sorcery course. There's not really a lot strategic about give me lots of money so I don't have to think. But that's what it boils down to. It's the same sort of avoidance of money.
Or avoidance of work.
Or avoidance of work that somebody who doesn't want to think about it at all has. They just want the world handed to them on a platter. And magic, like I said, it can help alter probability. But, if you have a 1 in 18 million chance of winning something, even if you cut it down by half and then half again, that's still, 1 in 5 million or so. So one math professor I had pointed out that you are 10 times more likely to die on the car trip to buy a ticket than you are to win the Mega Millions.
I don't like those odds.
No, I don't like those odds either. So, I recommend that people put the emergency magic and the pipe dreams aside and get down to the hard work of whipping their finances into shape, bringing it on the path, making it a part of their spiritual life, make it a part of their magical practice, and, applying their spells to that rather than, this sort of avoidance of money.
Well, if people were to say, apply your principles and say that they worked and they were increasing their income, if they in turn was to take that same income and invest it wisely in such a way that it would benefit them and give them surplus and maybe even benefit others around them in some way, shape, or form, wouldn't that automatically create an extra surplus than what they'd be looking at just trying to work with it regular?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the last chapter of the book is about passive income. It's about, once you've got everything else set and you're working and you're making more than you're spending every month, here's how you take that money and invest it and make that money make money. And, I was just talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they had said, that they want to invest, but they realize that they have the money to invest. They said, but every week it comes down to, well, I could spend the money on this, or I could just put it away into this investment. So I say, well, some of the greatest magic you can do is the magic of automation. Don't just make it another bill. Don't think of it in terms of something you're going to buy. Just, you tell the company you work for that you want 20% of your pay to be funneled into this, into, say, an online high-yield savings account, and then you tell your brokerage firm to withdraw a certain amount of money every month, and you don't even think about it. Don't even think about the investments. I mean, think about them in terms of, how to make them and when to change from stocks to bonds as you get older and things like that. But, you do that automation and the money builds and, it's a beautiful thing.
I can understand that. Real quick, though, before we go any further, because I got ahead of myself today, I didn't mention at the beginning of the show that his website is www. Well, actually, there's no www, just HTTP with the :// strategicsorcery.blogspot.com, and there's a lot more information.
No.
Oh, wrong URL.
It's that one is my old blog. Google ate that one for 6 months, so I had to open up a new one, and then it just reappeared. But if you go to this is terrible URL. We were talking about this before the show, but inominandum.com, INOMINANDUM, or if you Google Strategic Sorcery and you look for the URL inominandum.com, you'll see the new blog there. And or if you go to the Blogspot one, there'll be a post there directing you to the new blog. So Google Strategic Sorcery and you'll find me eventually.
Well, I want to thank you for helping me clarify that, because I was googling. And also, for those of you that want to call in and ask questions, the call-in number is 832-632-7904. And I don't always answer the phone right away, because sometimes I try to wait for the guest to, finish a sentence and not interrupt. I'm not always able to. Sometimes I pick up the line while he's still speaking, because I'm trying to keep it from going to call notes. But if it does go to the voicemail, just hang up and try again. We will get you on here. Also, you can ask questions in chat, which some people do. And you can also Skype questions as well at Mr. Paranormal. Pardon me. Now, I was going to mention that you are right about one thing. There are spiritual principles, even in religion and even in the Bible, about money gain. And there's, principles against it as well, granted. But I think it's really a matter of balance. I think the principles against it referred to items agreed versus not to make it or not to have a surplus, but a difference between being greedy at the expense of others, for example. Do you think I'm very far off base with that?
No, I think you're right on the money with that. I mean, most of what the Bible has to say about money is just, it's excellent. It's exactly what I would say. Christ said you cannot serve mammon and serve the Lord, or serve, if you want to take it out of Christian context, you can't serve money and serve spirit. And I believe that. And like I said earlier, that's where the decision, you become a renunciate or you master money. Certainly in the case of Christ, his immediate followers, like the immediate followers of the Buddha and so on, were more or less renunciates. They had, renounced a lot of the comforts of the world around them. But he also, very clearly had sponsors and benefactors. Joseph of Arimathea, who took care of his burial expenses and eventually is said to have, moved up to England later in his life, and Mary Magdala is now known, although many people still believe the erroneous teaching that she was the prostitute who was being stoned. She, Scripture is very clear that she was not. She was in fact very likely a financial backer of Christ's mission. So, he did surround himself with people that had money and knew how to handle money without money dominating them. The people will point to Jesus and the Money Changers episode, but, that's a matter of coin changing in the temple, and it's a matter of not just connecting money with the temple, but connecting the temple with Rome and so on. So, there's a deeper issue at stake there, not just an anti-money message.
Right.
So, there's definitely a lot of, positive things to say about money and warnings about money, the power of money to dominate the mind and become to lead one away from the Spirit. And I think, without even getting into a particular religious teaching one over another, you can look around today and see how different companies, different corporations, different individuals have, let the love of money just dictate horrible actions, horrendous actions. I mean, you take these equity firms that will come in and, take a company that's in trouble, and, if they make more money by saving the company, that's what they'll do. But most of the time, they'll make a dime more by tearing the company up and moving it over to India or China. I mean, if they make $1 more doing that, guess where that company's going? So, there is a way that money is affecting people's minds nowadays that is poisonous, in as opposed to how it was only a few decades ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, greed's a big issue nowadays. I'd have to agree with you. I was going to ask you, though, if you could kind of give us an idea, what are some of the things you cover in your book?
Well, the book is set up so that you can sort of, you pick it up and immediately you get this just shift in perspective. So the first chapter is literally called Perspective. And I talk about the concept of being rich versus the concept of being wealthy, what it means to build wealth versus having a big income, and then I move on and I talk about money as spirit, a little bit like we've been talking about here. But, spirits, for a magician or for a shaman, different spirits have different natures, different likes and dislikes and things like that. So money is a little bit like that, so money values movement, for instance. People sometimes think about the accumulation of wealth is just sort of, building this gigantic pile like your Scrooge McDuck or something like that. But it's not. Money, to build, money has to move. So the movement of money is just as important as the accumulation of it. And, controlling waste. And I think, when people waste money almost wastes itself. It gives them more and more opportunity to waste. Money is connected intimately with time. So these sorts of qualities to money that people need to think about. For instance, if I have two friends who make $100,000 a year, but one of them has a business at home and he works approximately 20 hours a week the other one makes his $100,000 a year working in New York. He has to commute 2 hours a day to get in and out of the city, and he works approximately 60, 70 hours a week. So who's making more money? He would say, well, I'm making just as much money as my friend is. I said, well, no, your friend's working 20 hours a week, so your relative income is pretty crappy in comparison to his. Then I talk about core skills, just the basic magical skills, breathing, how to use the voice, how to make offerings, and basic stuff that I think people with some background in ceremonial magic or witchcraft will already have some of that knowledge. But I point out to what I think the most important ones are.
Sounds kind of like a handbook there.
Yeah, it's a full handbook. And then I get into the powers that be. These are, different either planetary or deities and saints and so on that have been connected with money throughout history. And I give everything from Catholic saints to Buddhist spirits to pagan gods to, you name it. And then I have a whole chapter dedicated to Jupiter, who the book is dedicated to, and in that chapter I give the 16 what I call lightning glyphs. These are symbols specifically to be used for money magic. And then the rest of the book is just about strategies. How to kill your debt, how to manage your money, how to find a job, how to get promoted, how to start a business, how to use emergency magic when emergencies do happen, and why not to rely only on it. And then finally, how to build a passive income and retire. So it takes you sort of from somebody that, is on the verge of bankruptcy all the way up to somebody who is retiring comfortably.
Well, I'd like to be able to make enough that when I retire, well, in a way I'm already disabled, but I could travel the world, visit places like the Bermuda Triangle, the Vortex, I think it is, in Oklahoma, and other, pretty well-known paranormal sites around the USA, in other words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been to the, I've done some traveling. I've been to 21 countries, and I've been to the tip of the Bermuda Triangle. I actually did a magical working there in 2006. There's a church in St. George, Bermuda, at the very tip of the Bermuda Triangle. It's an unfinished church. And it was a wonderful, wonderful place. You have to imagine a stone cathedral with no ceiling and no floor. And it would, it's like it was built to be used for ritual. So that was that's a magnificent place. But yeah, I mean, you can, if you can set up an income that's not based on you having to be anywhere, it can be a huge benefit. I mean, right now I have kids. I have little kids, so I am, looking to stay rooted to give them a sense of home and place and family and so on. But, when I was younger, I spent some time living in Nepal and in other places. And, one of the secrets is that if you can make your living these days on the internet without having to be anywhere, let's say you start a business and you make, not a lot of money, $30,000 a year. Well, that might not be a lot to get by on in, where I live in New Jersey or where you live in Texas. But if you can go to Nepal, $30,000 a year, that's like, upper class.
Well, sure don't go to California.
Right, yeah, it's not going to go far in California, but there's areas of Tennessee where that'll get you a really nice house and a nice lifestyle too. So it doesn't have to be someplace exotic.
Yeah, actually, up in Louisiana, house rent's still $250 a month.
Oh, don't tease me like that, man. I live in the greater metropolitan New York area.
No, this is one of those little small towns about 2 blocks long was the main drag.
You couldn't get your car rent for $250 a month around here.
I don't think you can get a car for more than less than $430 something a month here.
No, I don't mean a car. I mean a parking space.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, what was your goal when you got decided to write this book? I mean, did you have any purpose in mind?
Absolutely. Like I said, I saw in the community in general that the books that were out there were either spell books, which are great. I love a good spell book, and like I said, the spells work. Or they were just, they were books that just had, some of them had advice that I thought was, bad advice. Things like, just keep your mind focused on the positive and imagine checks coming in the mail and tell yourself you'll make $1 million today and, these kinds of things, but divorced from any kind of real work at all. And I just thought, somebody has to step forward and say, well, look, the magic stuff works. But if you don't do the other stuff, then it's not going to work well. You're going to constantly just be using magic to bail yourself out of one disaster after another. I said, let's put this in context. Let's put this in reality, and let's try to help some people that might, might benefit from this. And, somebody told me today that they're part of a nationwide magical group, and somebody had said, I love this book so much that if anybody in this group doesn't have the money to get it, I will buy it for you. And I just thought, wow, that is, that just did my heart good, that somebody benefited that much and thought other people could benefit that much from it. I was really like, wow, that made me happy.
Well, yeah, I think it would me too. You know what they say about word of mouth.
Absolutely. So that was the primary reason, give people that use magic sort of a better framework to use it within. And to get people thinking a little bit differently about magic and spirituality, because, without some kind of guidance beyond the accumulation of money itself, it can just, it can go awry and wreak havoc.
Well, I got to ask you now about The Secret. I know you're bound to have heard of The Secret, maybe even seen the video. What's your take on it?
Well, I had, in one of my adverts for my course or my book, I said something like, I'll teach you the secrets that will actually make the secret work. And The Secret is okay. The Secret is grounded in what's called New Thought. which is this sort of positive thinking philosophy, which is not bad. And The Secret is grounded in teachings like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And there's a lot of truth in there that, we are what we think about. And if you think negatively about things, if you, think constantly in terms of what you don't have rather than what you would like to have, it affects the mind. You're reinforcing what you don't have. If you're constantly saying to yourself, I don't want to get laid off, I don't want to get laid off, I don't want to get laid off, the mind doesn't really understand negatives like that. So it just keeps, it keeps hearing laid off, laid off, laid off, and you soon find yourself laid off. So they teach some good mental tricks in The Secret and associated books. The problem is they take it too far and they divorce it from reality. So, there are parts of The Secret that just suggest, you just concentrate on checks coming to the house. And sooner or later, checks will just start showing up. And it's like, what? Like, I don't know about you, but if checks just started showing up at my house, I would be a little worried. Maybe the bank made a mistake or something, you don't want to cash that because then the bank will find out. So, or I think my favorite part of The Secret is, you can eat at McDonald's every day, but if you don't believe it'll make you fat, it won't make you fat. No, I'm sorry. Reality doesn't, reality is not as hard and fast as some people say. Obviously, I believe in magic and the potential of energy and prayer and spirits and so on to affect reality, but I don't think that it's just, wishes and fairy fluff can rewrite the rules of reality to that degree. So I have some serious problems with The Secret. A better book in that vein is a book called The Answer. And it's written, one of the authors of The Answer was one of the people that consulted on The Secret. And although he didn't say it, I almost feel like it was his, not apology for The Secret, but his sort of like clarification. Like, there's the law of attraction, but then there's the law of action and gestation too. Things take time to gestate, and things take time, take action to get moving too. So The Answer is a bit more, is a bit of a better book in that way than The Secret is. But, The Secret is couched in some really fine marketing. So I'd say that, if people were interested in marketing a popular book or something like that, studying The Secret is a good way to go.
But, interesting you should mention that, because one of the people that was in the movie The Secret was the guy that was the author of Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul. So, and it turned out to be a good way to go for him anyway, but, then too, he probably didn't just use their application alone. He probably might have borrowed some from reading one of your books or another source. Well,
he definitely didn't. He didn't borrow from one of mine. I like his books. I like Chicken Soup for the Soul. I think, I don't even know if my books were out by the time, he was writing. But, there's a lot of people that can consult in The Secret or when somebody says, hey, can you chime in on this? You don't necessarily know the whole gist of the project. So, like I said, I wonder if some of the people, some of the bigger names that were involved in The Secret kind of look at it and go, that's not what I meant. And certainly, not what he meant in terms alone. I mean, I know people that maybe they're a little bit on the gullible side, but they read The Secret and then they go online and they order these special checks to the universe and they make a vision board, and all of which is good. But if it's, that's the end of their action. They then sit there and they'll spend more time concentrating on a vision board than they will researching how to write a resume for today's world. And there's a real art to, if you wrote your last resume 6 years ago, you need to relearn how to write a resume for today's world. It's completely different. So there's a lot more to it than sitting around concentrating on, the checks that are going to appear at your door any day now.
So what are some of the things you would need to do? You said you needed some action to go with the positive thinking or the prayer. What would you consider action?
Well, depends on the situation. Take the example of a job. If somebody is unemployed, the first thing that they should do is they can, do that one big thing. They can, make a vision board to see the job they want, or they can, light a candle to their favorite saint or spirit or something like that and ask for help and guidance towards finding a better job that pays enough and gives them the benefits that they need. And, some people, they forget to ask for, what they really need. Just get me a job. And, next thing you know, they get a job that was, is paying them half what they were making. And they think, well, the spirit got me this job. I must belong there. No, you don't. Come on. You need to go where, you don't take the first thing that gets thrown at you. It's work. You work for a living. You need to have it support your life. But then after that spell, the next thing you have to do is let everybody know you're looking for work. Why do you have to let everybody know? Some people are ashamed to let people know that they're looking for work, or, they don't want to announce it on Facebook or something like that. But that's the first thing you have to do, because 80% of the jobs in America are not advertised. 80% of the jobs that are open right now are not advertised anywhere. They're word of mouth. They're filled by people who know somebody, who say, I got a position open here. Do you know anybody that would be good for that? And sure enough, so it takes networking. It takes people knowing that you're out of work and you need a job. And this is doubly important for people who are maybe a little light on the education. In the 90s, you didn't need a bachelor's degree to get a great job. Nowadays, it's a lot harder. But if you know somebody, he can say, well, look, this guy, he doesn't have a bachelor's, but he worked at AIG, or he worked at Ernst & Young, and he really tore it up, and he knows his stuff. They might be able to give you a shot, whereas if you're applying through Career Builder, you're just 1 in 800 resumes that they're going to toss out if you don't meet the qualifications. So you got to let people know. Then you got to do the resume. Like I said, there's an art today to putting together a resume for every single job, and every resume should be different. And then you got to consecrate that resume using magic. So now again, you're back in with the magic on the resume. So you consecrate it to the powers of Mercury, because the resume is transmitting your information. It's mercurial. It tells people about you. Then you do your cover letter, and you can consecrate that to the powers of Venus, because that's to make people fall in love with you. That's what enchants people. So your cover letter is there to say, you have my resume, this gives you all the information, but this is why you're going to love me. This is what I've done with my former jobs and why you'll want to hire me. So, you put those on your altar at home and you get those working as they get sent out, and then there are things that you can do in the interview. So every stage has actions that you take both mundanely and magically.
And like I say, you want to always make sure you're looking for a job that can give you the kind of money that you need to live on with a little surplus on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, living paycheck to paycheck is for the birds.
Without a doubt.
So, once again, folks, you can Google Financial Sorcery, and you can find him through doing this method at either his strategicsorcery.blogspot site, which has a link over to his newest site, which I'm still having trouble pronouncing, or you can see the link to his newest site after he's already pronounced it on the show. You can go ahead and pronounce it one more time as well.
That is nominandum.com.
And learn more about him and how to get his books, which his books are at major bookstores like Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. I'm not sure exactly where else. Also, if you folks would just simply scroll down below the chat room, below the phone information, you'll see his show description right here on the front page, at least for tonight. And underneath his description is a link to his book on Amazon. And if you're all interested in buying it, please click on this link because I get a commission, if you'll pardon my shameless plug on that one, for any books that sell off of my show through that link. Now, I'll be moving this show to the archives tomorrow, and moving up the next show will come up automatically. So that's why I got to move this show to the archive to make room for tomorrow's show. And it'll still be in my archive from now until whenever. I don't have any immediate plans of removing anything. It'll be you can find it at YouTube, Media Cafe, and Dead Emotion. And I should have it up by tomorrow or the next day. Sometimes I do get busy. And I invite everybody to check it out at whichever location, suits you the best. Listening to it here is really advantageous to me, but if you're listening to it anywhere, you're at least getting to enjoy the show. During the last, say, 13 minutes here, is there any thing you'd like to cover that I haven't thought to bring up?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about some of my other works, I have other books. Excuse me. Protection and Reversal Magic, which is about, protection. It's about how to protect yourself from spirits and energies and forces and curses and so on, and how this has been a part of culture since the beginning of human history. And it's something that we've lost touch with overall in the West, but which the rest of the world has not, and which, has some benefits to it. I also have my year-long course, the Strategic Sorcery course, which grew out of my book, The Sorcerer's Secrets, Strategies for Practical Magic. So, I do more than just financial sorcery. I teach people the arts of magic right from the ground up.
Okay, now don't you still have one more book out there too?
No, it's Financial Sorcery, and then I have Protection and Reversal Magic, and then I have The Sorcerer's Secrets, Strategies in Practical Magic. Those are my three, and then I have my year-long course, Strategic Sorcery, but that is online. Protection and Reversal Magic has been translated into Spanish and Russian, too, so you can find copies of that out there.
Well, real quick, why don't you tell us about your online course and, how does it work?
Well, the online course launched on Halloween 2 years ago. And, again, it was one of those things where I saw a need for solid training in the internet age for people who are not going to be joining magical orders and so on. And I wanted to produce something that was information dense and not too expensive. So it's $150 for 52 lessons. That's so that you get one lesson a week, and everybody has 5 years to finish the course, and it covers everything from how to cast circles and other zone rites to meditation. And there's 3 lessons on meditation. I'm a huge I believe in the benefits of meditation fully. There's lessons on prayer and the different ways of praying and how prayer works into magic. There's lessons on dealing with spirits and making talismans and astral travel and financial sorcery, of course, and love sorcery and you name it. And it's in there. By the end of the course, where you'll be dealing with some advanced magics that most people never really even get up to.
So, is this going to have some form of certification at the end of the course?
Well, those that finish the course, who finish all the homework, will get a certificate from me. Certificates like that are, to be blunt, they're worth what they're worth. If you have some idea that I'm good at what I do, and I'm a well-known author, and I like to think that that's worth something, then the homeworks are not easy. So there's only a few people that have passed it and have gotten their certifications. So when you do get a certification for doing the homework. There are some people, I think, who take the course and don't worry about ever getting the certification. So they just want the knowledge. And that's fine, too. I don't get bent out of shape about any of that. So, there is a certification. You can certainly tell people, I'm a graduate of the Strategic Sorcery course. It's not exactly something to put on your college application.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll, get you a job at a financial services firm, but hey.
Okay, now, somebody in the chat room, Les, has asked, have you heard of Ophiel?
I have heard of Ophiel, yes. Yeah, Ophiel, if it's who I'm thinking of, wrote some magnificent books back in the 60s and 70s. Really short chapbooks on astral projection and some, I want to say basic magic, but they were basic books, but they weren't simple. They were pithy. They covered the important points, and they were really well put together. And the original versions had color plates and illustrations in them that were just wonderful and indicative of the art at that time. So if you get your hands on some Ophiel books, they're magnificent.
All righty. Well, do you have any last-minute thoughts to share with us?
Well, I do. There's a lot of people nowadays who, because of this Occupy and which is fine, and other things, they think in terms of affluence and money as being the enemy. And it's not. Affluence is not the enemy. And for as much as the love of money might be the root of all evil, a lot more harm in this world comes from people not having it. And if you want to change the world, then a good way to do it is to become affluent yourself, to get some skin in the game, to partake in the economy, but to do it wisely and in accordance with your in accordance with your spirituality and your views, and let your money become an expression of that. You can do things. Sponsor, a group that otherwise doesn't have much money. Sponsor either a spiritual group or a charity, or for that matter, start a company that does something good for the world. Money doesn't have to be evil. Money is, but if you're running a business, the point is to make money. You can have a green company that, is the best thing in the world for planet Earth, but if it doesn't make money, it's going to fail. And then who are you serving in the long run? So affluence is not the enemy. Keep money in mind. Keep, as Snoop Dogg says, your mind on your money and your money on your mind. But make it all serve the spirit.
All righty then. Well, Jason, it's been a pleasure having you here, and a very enjoyable hour. I got to tell you, you're a very informed person, and I like the way you described your book. I haven't got to, get a copy of it yet myself. I probably will, though. Pardon me.
I think I'll send you a copy. If you don't get it, if they don't send you a copy, write me and I will.
Well, they usually do. That's why I said I probably will, because sometimes I think they're just waiting for an order. I'll do an interview and I'll get a book on it a month later. So, it's just the way that, they got their time thing that they run in other words. But I was going to say, it'd be a pleasure to have you back in the future, especially if you got something new going on you'd like to tell my listeners about, or, something of that nature. I'd like to keep the door open for you in the future.
Well, thank you very much. I'd love to come back.
Okie doke. Well, it's getting up time for me to start getting ready for bed, because I got a son that's on his last year in school, and then maybe next year I can stay up a little later.
Well, congratulations to your son.
I'm going to call it quits for the night, and thanks for the congratulations. And it's been a pleasure, and you have a good, the rest of the week and the rest of however long.
You too. You too. It was great chatting with you.
You too now. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, everyone. Really quick don't forget that this week we're going to be having shows for the better part of the week, or a good chunk of it. Catching up from a case where I was sick and where a person wasn't able to show up. Tomorrow night at 8, we're going to have Secrets of Maya Technology with James O'Con. I hope everybody can make it. Also, The Unfoldment. This guy was not able to make our last scheduled show we had, because he got hung up in Portland in traffic and couldn't get back to the house in time. So we rescheduled for Thursday the 13th. And he's got a lot of teaching about spiritual unfoldment, which I think is going to be useful to everybody. And then, of course, Saturday, we're going to have the return of Seth Farber, The Gift of Spiritual Madness. As some of you may remember that the last time he was on my show, we ran out of time. There was some interesting exchange between him and James Single going on their difference of opinion on the use of drugs and psychiatrics. I've had a chance to read most of his book. I hope to be through with it in time and have some questions ready for him. I think it's going to be an interesting show. Don't forget to stop by World UFO Today and check them out. And don't forget about my friends at UPI International and Supernatural Forums. And also, don't forget to click on the radio favorites link, where we got links to UKPN Radio with Gary Brown, JimHarold.com with Jim Harold, The Gradian Report with Micah Hanks, Ohio Exopolitics with Mark Snyder. And 3 of these hosts I've had on my show, I've heard all of their shows. They're great hosts. I would really recommend them if you're looking for other shows to learn from. And with that, folks, I'm going to call it a night, and I'm going to talk at you guys later. Thanks for coming, and I hope to see you all tomorrow night. Don't forget to tell your friends. Bye-bye.